My father, Ryland Wesley Crary, a radio room operator on the CBL 30, and a distinguished educator, school bus driver in his retirement. Married once before World War II. Her name was Gus. She was a schoolmarm, and they met, I believe, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I saw her once on the couch when my eldest half sister lived across the street from my divorced mother, his third wife, Jane Thompson, Nancy Jane. She clearly didn't like me, and my presence caused her a great deal of pain. I could see that. I dearly loved my second eldest sister, Gretchen, but she was apparently part of a company that had it in for me. Jane lived in a much bigger house before they moved over to Winterton Street, which was a strategic location. And later, she lived in Penfield Downs. Much larger house when she was married to Jeff Thompson was on Darlington, I believe, next door to Cyril Wecht, when Jeff was at Carnegie Tech, which became Carnegie Mellon, which would have been about 1965. Goldwater came up in those days, and we took young Stephen to see Born Free. He let out a yell, "Where's Elsa going?" Greg Carl, the leader of the Gutter Snipes, and Randy Walsh were neighbors of the Thompsons, as was the McGarveys, and Wattenmaker. We know from the movie script that it's highly likely that Wattenmaker was through a network of cinema control that included the Attenboroughs. When we look at the lithography, the way that a master planner, we don't know who exactly it is, although it's clear from Cyril Wecht and Oliver Stone's relations with Putin and Trump, Trump's relations with the people who authored the Maidan massacre in the Ukraine, which led the Ukraine to be really determined to break from Russia. Trump was, Manafort was likely involved in that decision to massacre the Ukrainians in Maidan. We know from the Sleepfrog oligarchy that a planning network has killed the Kennedys because the neo-NATO structure is on the move for old European powers. Somehow the hope that the atomic blasts against Japan that ended World War II would also end conventional warfare and bring about an era of peace was subverted by the Kennedy assassinations and by the struggle in Vietnam, for which Noam Chomsky has long blamed the Kennedys. The United States of America has long been seen as a haves nation, against whom the have nots should place their animosities and begin targeting. So, all over the world, black people look to black leadership in America to lead them in a struggle against American dignities, rights, and possessions. I don't know that there's not some truth to the idea that America has an obligation to the poor that should lead us to dismantle some of the excesses in the billionaire sector. Certainly, what Exxon is doing to the planet is an outrage. But when I look at the form, the bizarre form that this concept has taken of attacking a deaf person who's poor, who stood with them when I was just a child. It's the bizarrest thing anybody can think of. And so the result is that I've reached the only logical conclusion, which is the direction of such a global slum movement is to demean what little the poor have, which is our dignity, our right to an education. What else could it mean? To attack a deaf child who has already been brutally tortured by the KKK. It's the most farcical thing. And Seattle, their eyes glowing like a beast of prey. Hail Yoko Ono and her imagination for doing this. The Mitsui book that appeared on my porch when I lived on Winterton Street must have come from Jane and Jeff. Jeff built dams in Japan and spoke Japanese fluently. Still does, I'm sure. And he was the macho type of martial warrior, warrior that they would accord um, all due respectivity. Whereas they used to call me the runt of the litter when I was weighed about 80 pounds as a 9-year-old. And this is what they let me hear about myself when they weren't calling me queer bait and authoring Michael Reagan's favorite scene some more for Warhol's Southern Peace. So a lot of these poachers were Israeli or Israeli. And if they're demeaning the idea of human rights, my father had a book about human rights. Very directionally, humans don't have rights. It's a false consciousness to say humans have rights. You would find something like deranged encouragement of aggressive felons because they're black against a deaf white, and a sort of spin machine called UW dialectical. And of course, the wizards of it are in the Beatles. So you're all connected up, is what Bronstein said about me. The wizards of it are in the Beatles. Oh, you have laughing stock status. The Beatles are the ones who tortured you. Aren't you sure? Aren't you special? It's very British, kook and normal stuff. And the infinity of British music will lead you. It's like the violinists at Dachau, waiting for the merchandise, as Goebbels called them. So you have this parameter in the Ukraine, and Clint Eastwood comes and says, you choose a side on that Ukraine parameter, buddy boy. And Trumpy Tune starts giving indications from Dick's Sporting Goods that you are the chosen, as though, the people who bomb the Palestinians routinely can just sort of flip the lever on their PlayStation, and Putin goes into the Ukraine, Overstone, Trumpy Tune, say, hey, send Kissinger to pat him on the behind. And they've got their perimeter. It's like, blasting Kennedy and running into Vietnam. Hey, Vietnam, born free. And El Salvador, born free. And they enculturate martial craziness is the norm rather than civilization. They say the Second Amendment proves that the First Amendment is rubbish. So then they mail me these letters by a person who they still swear is innocent. She's innocent, but since you received the letters, they say to me, you are guilty. So that what she wrote, then they say she didn't do, is all my fault. And this very reasonable stand constitutes an agreement that all the people in the United Nations went along with Maduro Goto's violent attack on an implant in neuroplasm because sociological wizards said he is the closest continuer, that's the walrus Rawls, the closest continuer. He's big and influential in the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, John Rawls. Harvard Law, the closest continuer of little boy. So we get to stick him in the face with a nerve agent and blow it up. And then everybody lives happily ever after with the Gaming of Japan. And the Navy is gig with this because George Bush said Ronald Reagan liked the idea. And then they say, we want you to dance on the puppet string for us, Queerbait. What's your response to the idea that Ronald Reagan liked the idea? Don't say that he liked it so much because his son has a favorite scene of when you were 9 years old. Don't say he liked it so much because it means they get away with killing JFK and Bobby and Martin. Don't call him Martin. Call him Dr. King. Don't say he liked it so much because it means they get to penetrate and then slay Cersei Kennedy and deliver the notice with two more some more. Don't say that. We want you to play your puppet string. What do you say when you hear Reagan liked the idea? Well, puppet string or not, the evidence shows that Reagan was behind the idea, and Pentagon Disney put on a little Hollywood magic, and his attorneys made it a point of having me there in D.C. for the show. And in fact, the Secret Service operators from the media who were waiting for me in Philadelphia were laughing because my shock was so obvious. And they planted a fake script of Hollywood planning. If it wasn't a real world's movie, if it wasn't a fake operation like the Warren Report, if it wasn't a Dan Rather conscientiously saying Kennedy's head goes violently forward, if it wasn't a film from the fourth dimension being told as if it was real, if it wasn't a fake, why did they script it like a movie to make later? Why did Oliver Stone work with the people he surely knew from that script because of where it was proximate, were involved in the murder of JFK, specifically Cyril Wecht and probably Tink Thompson? Why did he make his movie with them as though nothing is real? Hybrid Zania by the Leapfrog oligarchs who have a PlayStation. And the PlayStation says that people don't matter, human rights don't exist, that human beings don't have value. And they're just going to sweep as much human debris away as they get away with sweeping away while lying through the teeth about the nature of the conflicts they are promoting. And they have key salesmen in positions of power all across the board who agreed to the psychopathy. The way out, if there is a way out, people say reconciliation doesn't work. The only thing that works is firepower. The truth is that we backed ourselves into a corner by this constant carping about firepower. We need to learn how to behave humanely towards one another. We need to trust some diplomacy. We need to keep records and keep hope alive for civil justice. Civil justice doesn't mean feel good taking out of people who make your uh, logistical register seem to be even. Justice is about presenting evidence against people who appear to be guilty and allowing them to offer a defense. The idea of accusing me of being behind the atom bomb is grossly insincere. It's an attack. I don't think it should be tolerated. I think that people like Obama who went along with it should be at the very minimum sanctioned as pathetic and stupid people. But since the media is taken like a hoe, all I can do is keep making records in a civilized way as a library clerk. The clerk, they like to laugh. 22 11 22, they like to laugh. It's clearly an oligarch leapfrog system putting on a puppet show. I don't like it. I think the royal family should be asked to abolish itself, not to be harmed or put on trial. It's too much stress to go through all that. They should sign away their royal prerogatives forever. This is absolute tragedy for the human race. And now we're on the brink of World War III because of the ninnyopathy of Nancy Pelosi. I don't see how people can hope to overcome the climate crisis when we're not even willing to listen to the music and the soul of our best leaders. We all know what Mahatma Gandhi wanted to say. We all know what Martin Luther King wanted to say. And no matter what Chomsky deviously dredges up from the administration that was all there was to choose from, choosing as he does to believe Arthur Schlesinger, we all know what the Kennedys wanted to say. We all know what Gorbachev wanted to say. We need to listen to what these people who we know what they wanted to say and stop cutting them down with the tragedy of the compromises that they had to make that made them look badly in the eyes of people who split hairs about things that nobody entirely understands. But when you go out into garden after garden after garden and see no bees, you really have to question how stupid are these leaders? Are they really so cunning that they're planning to take life away from all of us and call it a win? I can't get over it. It's shocking. All my life, I've watched this stupid arms race tax and spend on the stupidest, most useless, monolithic barbarisms. And I've done my level best to talk sense to anybody who would listen to it. only to discover that the ingenues behind it had unbelievably put me on a secret trial against the right of my existence as a baby for the atom bomb, which has nothing to do with me, except in the eyes of the licky chops at UW Dialectical, because they have the atom bomb kid on sex peep. And they call that school administration. No thanks.